All right, legends, we are back. I hope you have digested that team list video. If you haven't yet, please go back and check that one out before we get into this video, but it's going to be touching on structure for your team, where you should likely pop some of the options that are in there. And we're going here through the guns, value, and cheapie options available, how many of them are and how good they are of an option in each of those positions. And that's going to help you set up your team best, obviously, overall, but for this first weekend of games, because we are going to have to set up just a couple of players there, anywhere between sort of 3 and 6 or something like that is where you might be. If you're looking at Turbo, if you're looking at the Wongs and the Tupanuas of the world and stuff like that. And we'll be going through them in another video, guys. In this one, I also just wanted to get some housekeeping out of the way. I'm saying this at the start of the video, so if I get any comments in my YouTube comments there asking about this, I will not answer them from here. So a little bit of a rant, but we have said multiple times in pretty much every one of the videos how the team list setup is going to work out. So please learn it now. Vice captain, captain, they lock in, all right, in the first game. We need to lock in the players from this weekend only. We have to field the rest of our team, right? All of those guys can be moved around anytime until their game locks out. So if you've got a Panthers player, like a Taylor May or something, very interesting option given he'll be dual position, but a bit expensive. But he there, you can move him around until the Panthers game, right? If it's an Eels player, you can move them around all the way to until the Eels game, right? So we will get those team lists for next week, and then you can you can lock in your squad completely from there. So it is split, and we're going to get this every year for the next couple, I think, given they've signed a deal with Vegas for the next few years. So firstly, guys, I've just got my head-to-head squad here, so a bit of a template at the moment as to where you would start, and we can kind of plug and play and work out where some options are for our side. So this is kind of where we're looking at the moment. We're a tiny bit worried on Lussick, obviously, but let's just say you have Cleary as captain. The other one to look at, let's just say you are picking a Haas up top, so you could slot him in there, and you could have him as or vice, obviously, given he plays early, or you can have him as your captain, whatever you decide to do, and then Cleary can be your captain. So those two guys are going to be locked in. Haas obviously plays in that second game in Vegas, so we've got his team list. He should be fine. And then from there, you're selecting your Roosters, your Manly, your Rabbitohs, and also your Broncos players. And make sure they're locked in. Fill out the rest of your team, because as you see here, guys, your team is currently invalid and will not score for the next round. Please ensure you complete your team and select your captain and vice captain before that first lockout. That's all you need to know, all right? So make sure your team is completely full, but we can make lots of changes throughout the week, throughout the weekend. Obviously, after team list on next Tuesday is going to be our bigger of the two team lists there. So keep that in mind. But as we go through this, we'll go through where the potential options are, and maybe where some of the pitfalls are to make money to get points, and then we can make a team according to that one, guys, as well. Also, private group team, we've got a few days to get into that. 3 days left, so yeah, very excited with how that's panned out. The people in there are awesome. The group chat's awesome. Plenty of competitions, plenty of prizes. Get around it, DM me. All the details are in the description as well. So let's kick it off, guys. So the options in each position. Now we can slow it down. Yesterday was a little bit frantic, that's for sure. Trying to get some stuff out and kind of work out what is happening with these players. So the hooking position. We have I've got the scale here as well. We'll go through that. So we've got options of amazing, great, good, solid, okay, and average in that order from best to worst, and how we're going through the options. So, might have, in the gun section here in the hooker, you might have 1 or 2 options that you like, but the other 3 might not be that great. So that's why I've got 5 okay options there. No one's really a standout pick in this position, and that's why they're in the okay section. You got 1 DPP who is half, and that's obviously Tanner Boyd as well. I won't be going through all of the types of all of the players in these positions. We'll save that for another video. I just want you to look at structure in this video here for this week, and then obviously for next week as well. Some things to note is how much money you're spending this week, and sort of which positions. And if you are wondering what type of player is going to get a spot next week, it could be KO Weeks, it could be Ethan Strange, and that's an interesting one, obviously, with the backup wing fullback position. As we'll show you here, in the wing fullback position, you've got sort of 9 good options in the gun section, but they all cost a lot of money. 6 solid options in the value, and then 8 very average, cheapy options. So maybe you're not able to fit a lot of good plays in that wing fullback, or you don't want to, and that's where KO Weeks is helpful as a guy in your emergency, as like your backup, potentially as a starter with like a Seb Chris on the emergencies who's going to play in round 2. So then in round 2, then Weeks could be a backup, right? If he wasn't to be named, then we have to look at our wing fullbacks a little bit harder, and let's just say it is Strange and he's now your center. So center maybe becomes a little bit easier. You have some easy cover for center, but then you don't have the cover for wing fullback and have to make decisions around that. There's obviously question marks around Lussick. So you want to be as fluid as possible over the next week, guys, in setting up your squads, because we don't have the team list and we don't have a clear idea. Probably have like 85%, but there's a few guys, like I've just said, in Weeks and Strange, Lussick and Hands. Do we get either of them? Do we get one of them? Those type of questions are going to be answered next week, but we don't have that information now. We won't have that information before Sunday's games. So just keep that in mind when you're going through all of the positions, and maybe where you have to spend up some money could be down lower in center and wing fullback. You may have to spend some money in hooker. You may have to spend some money in half. And we see that there's definitely a lot of good options in mid and edge. So let's have a look at that now and go through those positions. So as we said, with the hooking position, there's 5 okay options in the guns, 2 good options if they get the spot in the value position. So Brandon Smith is the DPP dual player position. They can be in 2 positions, guys, for those that are new, in the mid. So hooker and mid for Brandon, and then either Lussick or Hands, right? So they're the 2 value options, and they're good if they get a spot and if they get good minutes. I think Brandon Smith is a good option. Do you want to start with him in this round 1, in this Sunday game? Or do you wait and see what happens with Lussick and Hands and make your decisions on the gun from there? Do you go a gun and a value? The cheapies, he's one sort of average option. You could make a bit of cash in Danny Levi. So that's the hooking position. In a nutshell, how do you play that? A gun and a value? Do you go one gun only with no cover? Do you go a Lussick or whatever and Brandon Smith? Do you wait and see and not pick Brandon Smith and then wait and see what happens next week? They're the options in the hooking position, I think, at the moment. And you can decide which one you want that to be. For the mids now, and I've covered the dual position guys in both, so I've added their number in both guys as well. For the mids, for the guns, you got 8 amazing options. So this is the only group here where I've got amazing as the scale option, and that's because all of them are going to be top tier scorers, and I don't think that changes at all. You can pick one probably of any of them and do a good job and not be a worry. So that's 700k above. So it includes like guys like Cam McInnes, who was named captain yesterday for his club, and if he's starting 13, we know what he can score with good minutes. So anywhere from him all the way up, and they're all great options. 1 DPP edge, you can guess who that is. It is Jermaine Hopgood. So the value, guys, we have 8 great options, so all of them will make money. It's just how much and what price you want to pay. Cotters, Elliott's, you can go down. You've got Satilli at 420 odd. You've got the Totolas, the Mays in that 490. So plenty of options. I think they all make money. A couple of them are a DPP edge, which is cool as well. So it shows you that you could spend up in the value section in the mids and not go short. And then the cheapies, you got 5 solid options. So you'll have 1 or 2 DPP with edge, Willison, Salmon, those types of guys. Salmon will get the, if he starts, he'll get the mid dual, and some other guys that are fairly cheap that could potentially do a job, but we're not exactly sure that they're slam dunks. So one of them, Sam Hughes, likely to be a really good pick, but the other guys are average picks. So rounds out to be a solid section. Like it's in the middle, solid to good, I think, probably the mid. So I'm going to go chuck good in there. I've talked myself into it. Solid/good, because there's a few decent options, a few great options there for sure. Let's go to the edge now, guys, because those, if you look at those 2 sections there, you might go a gun and a value guy in the hooking position. The mid might have sort of a couple of value guys, 1 or 2 cheapies, maybe 1 gun. Okay, so that's sort of spreading your money across fairly well, you could say. You're not overloading in that. And if you were to do that in your team, we'll then see how much cash you have available. So the edge guys, we've got 4 solid options in the guns with a DPP. Hopgood, you've got 7 great options in the value position as well. So you can see there, the value section for mid and edge are both great. Value in the hooker is good. So those 3 sections, pretty solid for that. The value in the half position is average. The value for centers is solid. And the value for wing fullback is solid. So it looks like Where you want to take some value guys to make money is going to be up in the sort of hooker, mid, and edge position. And then you may be taking a punt in the value position in center wing, in center and also wing fullback as well. And halves, you're unlikely to take one of them. I've got Drew Hutchison in the cheapies, given he's 400K. So 400K and below is where I'm looking at in the cheapie section. So yeah, that's where we're at in the value section for the edges. And then cheapies, you got sort of 3 decent options, and that includes Salmon there as well, as someone to look at. And whatever happens with the Kane Bradleys and these types of guys could be very interesting for sure. And then you've got Ben Trbojevic was the other one as well, so he's got the dual position center tag on that. So again, edge position, you're probably looking at some value guys there as well. Do you go for one gun? Potentially, you can decide whether it's one. You're probably going one gun mid or one gun edge is where you want to look at in that. And then cheapies, you got one that, at least one in Salmon, if he's named there, that covers both. And then Trbojevic is there as well. So I think both the mid and the edge is going to be fairly easy to cover that position. Hooker is a bit more of an interesting guess as to how that, are we trusting Brad Arthur and questions like that. For the halves, you got 7 great options up top in the gun. So yeah, you're at least picking one of them in like a Cleary, but you could go a second because the value options aren't great. And then there's 3 sort of okay cheapy options, sort of mid-range, okay to solid there with Flanagan, with Hutcho, those kind of guys. So I think you do want one bit of half cover, especially when like Cleary's got a buy in round 5. You're not exactly sure on the cheapies or the value if they keep this spot. Like, does Hutchison keep his spot? Is Flanagan going to be viable to play in your 17? They're the questions you got to ask in the half position. And then does Weeks is he in there, and can he be a little bit of cover too? But you'd rather him in the wing fullbacks, I believe. Center, you've got 10 sort of solid options in the guns. A few guys you might want to pick, like that does include the Aitkins, the Penasini. We can go all the way up to Gaggais. You've got Isaac Tungo. You've got these types of guys that could do a really good job. A couple of them dual position with the wing fullbacks. Yeah, so maybe at this point you're looking at sort of solid options in the value section that could make a little bit of money. And that's what I'm looking at with solid. And then same with the cheapies. Solid there, they could make a little bit of money. If it is Strange, then probably helps a bit more in this section. Trbojevic, I'm not sure if he keeps his spot. So there's a couple of question marks around that. So you're probably looking at one close to a gun, or you go at least one value guy. And then maybe like a dual position player. You've got options in Seb Chris, the Sean Russells, Bailey Simonson. Just got the good news with Bailey that he's not actually injured, and they cleared him of any issue in that hamstring, so they must have got it scanned and checked it out. Maybe just felt it a little bit. Has like a bit of like hammy tightness, and he was fine. So that's good news on Bailey on that one, and I'm still interested in him as the dual position center wing fullback. We've obviously got like the Sullies and stuff as options in value. So there's definitely options in the center, but it's more a question mark again of how much money do you spend in all these positions, the hook, the mids, the edge, and the halves, and do you trust a lot of the cheapy centers and the wing fullbacks? And if you don't, then you may have to spend up a little bit into the value section, or you may have to go into the gun section in the wing fullback or the center. So in that wing fullback, then you've got 9 good options in the gun wing fullbacks. Yeah, you're looking at Walsh's, you're looking at Trbojevich's, Ponga's, Taylor May's, To'o's, like that kind of level is where you're looking at. And then the mid-tier value guys, if you're looking at Karaz and down, obviously Hammer and these types of guys come into our thoughts in that one. It's all solid. You got 3 dual position centers as well. I said Taylor May will get that dual center, which will be very helpful at that. And then the cheapies, you got 8 there's 8 wildly average options, and that includes obviously the Weeks, the Bradleys, those kind of guys if they were to get an opportunity. It does include the Seb Chris's, the Sean Russells, again all okay without being spectacular at that one there. So yeah, and then it's Kotrick's, all those types of guys, right? So yeah, you're looking at that and going, oh, it's pretty average. Do you trust them in your starting 17 scorers, or do you want to go and spend a little bit more in those guys that are the dual positions in the mid-range, the value, or close to that top of that cheapy range, the 390? The Jordan Rapiners and these types of guys you could look at as well, obviously. Or do you go for one of the top guns in a Ponga, a Trbojevic, those types of plays there, a Tedesco? They're going to be pretty fun as well. So do you spend up in the centers and the wing fullbacks a little bit and kind of make the team as balanced as possible? Or do you really go heavy up top and get sort of a couple of guns In the mids, do you get like a Harry Grant? Do you go for Cleary and then go a bit cheaper? In the halves with like Hutchison and Flanagan, potentially like Strange if he's going to be that option as well. If he starts round 6, he'll get round 6 in the 6 in round 1. He will get dual position, which will be fun as well for him. But we won't know that until next week, so you can't sort of play around with that too much. So yeah, I suppose that's where you're at this point. So let's just say, you go for the one option and you spend a fair bit of cash up here in the mids, right? And let's just say that your secondary mid, you've got Haas there, so you're not going to go Murray, but you're going to go for Cam McGuinness, right? That could be a fun one to play around with in that position. So the edge position, let's say you lock in, one of those, just one to start with, one of those edges that plays on the weekend, and that's going to be, Satili Tupanua, who a lot of people are interested in, and then you really like the look of someone like Lukey, which a lot of people do, is potentially an option. Up higher than that, there's the Blaws and the like. But let's go with someone like Lukey, or you could go with Wong as well and leave Lukey. From there, you've got 3. Just click Wong. Lol. Let's go for Lukey, as I said. We'll get that one sorted, and then you can you can decide which hooker you're going to select as well. I thought it was going to be easier just to scroll, and it's probably easier to search, but search wasn't working as well. Is anyone else finding that? You search on at the moment, and you search the player, and then the player name changes, and it comes up with someone different when you go to click them. Super frustrating. But if you're going to go with that, you've gone Haas up top, probably might be hard, and McInnes might be hard to get like Harry Grant, so you're going to go with Reece Robson in that position, and that's got Robson, Lukey there. In the mids, you still haven't selected someone like, maybe Ruben Cotter is obviously really highly owned, so you select him. There you go, Scott. Nice. So Rube, big Rubes. Yeah, so it seems to be a bit annoying when you actually search at the moment. So hopefully, can someone talk to them about it? There's a little bit of a bug, it seems like. I'll have to try it on like Chrome or something. But yeah, if you were to change out Cotter and pop him in there as right. So now you've got cover in the mids. You're probably going to go like a Salmon if you got named right. Silly Salmon. So he's now cover for edge. He'll get the mid as well. So you got that covered there, no problem. Robson and Lussick, let's just say that's how that plays out. The other option there in the halves, if you want to go for a mid-tier guy, let's just say Fogarty's the way to go, and you then went Flanagan instead of Hutcho, right? That gives you some solid options in that one. Other cheapies, obviously we've got like guys like McKaylee, could be in there. Like I'm looking at Galvin as a potential option, but we'll get to that once we see how much cash you got left. So 1.87 for 5 players, so we can probably spend up a little bit in the center position. So let's just say that is, we go to the top, and that's Penasini. At this point, you've got Weeks, Pap, right, in the fullback, and you've got 1.288 for 4 players, so a tick over 300 for each of those players, which does make it tough. So yeah, we've got some cheaper options. If you did want to go Rapin, it's probably a little bit too much, but like Keeney could be the play. But that gives you no cover in the wing fullback position. So what do you do with that? Do you go for like Simonson? Do you go for Seb Chris? And Seb might be the option that people are looking at. You could go for Simonson, as I said. You could go for really it's a bit tough, isn't it? Because you can go for like a Bostock if you wanted to go cheaper in that one, and that might be the play for some people, that they do go a little bit cheaper with a Bostock, and that leaves you with cover in the wing fullbacks. Don't currently have cover in the center position, and with Keeney being out round 2, Bostock will come in for that. So that's something to note there. Weeks, does he keep the spot, or is it Strange? So if it was to be Strange, we'd need wing fullback option, and that's where it gets a bit tough, and you may have to spend a little bit up at like a Russell. So let's just say at the moment Russell is the guy, or Chris is the guy, whichever one you want it to be, is 380k, and he can cover now center and fullback. So you've got cover for both of those, which is good. Cover for every single position right now, and then you've got 320k to slot in somewhere into your side. And who would be our options at 320k? Maybe you just go for one of the cheaper guys. It could be a Kane Bradley. At the moment, it could be McKaylee, could be something like that. But yeah, let's just go for McKaylee just because that finishes off. He's about 260 odd, wherever he is there. I'm going to get him a sec. No Tommy Talau. You can go for Xavier Willison. Let's go with him, right? So he's named. That makes it easy. So that point there, we've got 58K in the bank. You have cover for every position. And you've spent up a little bit more in the mids, right? So you've got McInnes, you've got Haas. You don't have Robson. So secondary option and something I'm personally looking at, you could go down a bit with Haas. You could not have McInnes and go for a lot of the value in the mid-tier guys, the mids, and obviously the edge. You could add Wong in. People are looking at obviously Lane and these types of guys. If Blore does get named, and that's something to look at. Robson can go to Grant. Robson can go to Jeremy Marshall King, Appy. He can go to Brandon Smith as well. So they're easy options up there as well. And then Brandon Smith, if you went for that one, you could change that, right? Leaves you 178 in the bank. And instead of getting Penasini, you could go someone a bit lighter, like a Sully, right? That could work in this one at 458. That gives you 300K in the bank. And then instead of a Sean Russell, right, you could trade in let's search it on here, would be fine. You could go for Trebojevic. So now you're not too stressed about your wing fullbacks because you have Tommy Trebojevic. So it's an interesting one. You got Ben and Sully. Obviously just lost our center cover. So that's something that hurts a little bit. Sully, it could become, what could you do here? It'd be close actually. Sully could become Sean Russell, and then Bostock could become, again, if you get Easton Strange, that could help with this one. Bostock could get close to, so you go Chris and Sean Russell. That's something there. You could obviously drop down Cam McInnes to one of the guys that I said and fix that position. So when you're looking at your side, guys, there's probably like 4 ways I think you can go. And that's to go a little bit cheaper up top. So you can go Brandon Smith, McInnes can go down to some of the cheapies. You could spend up and get Ponga or Trebojevic. You can get Ponga and Trebojevic. Go a bit cheaper in the centers. You could get rid of Fogarty and put Hutchison in that starting spot. Have Flanagan as the cover. So what's that? Three ways potentially. Fourth way, you could go up heavy up top with Harry Grant just to lock in that hooker position, and then go a little bit lower in both. Whether you go Haas down to Murray to get closer to that 100K or 250K, whatever it is, to get to Grant, and then you save a little bit elsewhere. Maybe you don't go Trebojevic, you go for like Bailey Simonson. So yeah, Haas down to Murray, Trebojevic down to Simonson, Smith up to Grant. Keep McInnes down to Elliott. Changes around. So that's like, there's lots of options, guys. Obviously the general gist is going to stay pretty similar. Like if Pikura is going to start, you're going to have him. You're going to have Sam Hughes. You'll likely have Cleary. I was having a laugh at the anti-Cleary thesis that the podcast was talking about. It was funny, that's for sure. And all the things that we think of in the preseason. So there's lots of ways to go about it. As we said, guys, like Lukey could go down to Wong as well, and that frees up some cash. So many ways to go about it. Let me know in the comments what way you're thinking of playing it. But obviously, as I said, guys, lock in those players that are going to be playing in these first couple of games, and then be fluid, be ready to change with the rest of your guys. If you want to captain Haas, then that's completely fine. If that's the case, just vice captain someone who is in that first game. If this is the way you're going with it, just vice captain Brandon Smith and captain Haas, and both should be fine. Or vice captain someone, if you are going with Trebojevic, vice captain him. Vice captain Ben Trebojevic, whatever. Tommy, Ben, whoever you want to do. That'll be fun. But yeah, check out the Discord links in there, guys. The community league, get in that as well. Private group stuff's in there in the description as well. That was a fun video. I enjoyed doing that, and I hope you got plenty out of it and the different ways that you could go about making your side. And I'll clearly get into deeply into all of the options for this first week, and where you might go. Scoop's going to come on as well and give us his options across all the positions. But it was a fun one, guys. And how do you reckon if I went with this head-to-head team right now, how would that go? Would I win a lot of my head-to-heads? And if you do have a really serious head-to-head comp, please let me know in the DM me or something like that, and I can join in, because at the moment I'm in a lot of leagues already, which is good. There's a lot there. yeah, so there'll be plenty to follow, that's for sure. I probably don't need too many more, but yeah, if you get into the private group, you'll see that you've got some options for head-to-heads as well, which is gonna be cool. But yeah, that's it, guys. Catch you in the next one.